Hi, welcome to the Jane Austen's Dreams sample turns video. If you want a full overview of the game, you can click the link that should be appearing somewhere right now. In this video, we're going to take a closer look at how Jane Austen's Dreams works. This doesn't show the full setup, which you can find on the other video. It also doesn't show where players put their played cards, which is to the left of the player mat, because every picture is a big file that frankly just slows down the animation. With that, here are a few turns in a 4-player game. This guy is playing Elizabeth Bennet. We'll call him Steve. Steve has these scene cards in his hand, and he has these invitations. It's volume 2, so he's not thinking much about the end of the game. He just wants points. Here's the state of the board. Steve could make Elizabeth have an encounter with John Thorpe or Colonel Brandon because she's in a location with them. Or he could play his scene first. This scene would send Mr. Wickham to Bath. That's not bad. He could pick up a couple of story tokens if he doesn't have them yet. This would send Mr. Darcy even farther away. That's not useful at all, at least not at the moment. But this scene could get him somewhere he wants to go. Let's check out his invitations again. Lady Catherine wants Elizabeth at Kent with her hero. Not going to happen this turn. That would take at least a few moves to get to, but it would probably be worth it for the points. Steve should keep it in mind. But this one, a barouche allows us to move up to 2 locations. Elizabeth's home is in Hertfordshire. She's with a hero right now. There's a particular friend 2 spaces away and heading away from her home. Steve gets 1 point with Colonel Brandon for moving him since he's an opponent. For answering Lady Catherine's invitation, he gets 2 heroine points and 2 points with Colonel Brandon. He'll discard his invitation and draw another from the same deck. He checks his location to see that Elizabeth has a story token from all the men there. He obviously has one from Colonel Brandon since he just moved it on his track. Heroines don't give story tokens, so he's done. Now he can discard either or both of his remaining scene cards. He'll dump this one. He'll draw 2 scenes from the volume of his next turn, which is still in volume 2. Julie is playing Anne Elliot. She begins her turn alone, so she decides to have a heroine encounter before she does her required action. She draws the top 2 cards from the deck. Both of these cards are useful for her. Since she has an invitation that requires her to get to an apothecary, she'll put this one back. Julie can play this card anytime after she draws it. She'll hold on to it for now and play her scene. This one. Walking allows her to move to an adjacent space. She has to end at least 1 space closer to her hero than she started. She'll move to Bath. Now she checks to see if she has story tokens for Mr. Tilney and Mr. Willoughby. She has Mr. Tilney's, so nothing happens with him, but she doesn't have Mr. Willoughby's. So Kate, who's playing Marianne Dashwood, will give her his token. No one has met up with Mr. Willoughby yet, so Kate takes the leftmost token. She uncovers a 5, so Julie puts his token on the 5 space on her story track. She'll discard and draw back up to 3, and her turn is done. Let's fast forward a few turns. We're on the first turn of volume 3. Everyone should be thinking about how they want to end the game if they haven't been already. Kate is playing Marianne Dashwood. Kate plays this card. Colonel Brandon moves up to 2 toward Marianne's home, which is in Sussex. Kate checks her story track to make sure she has all the men's story tokens in Colonel Brandon's location. She doesn't have Mr. Tilney's. George is playing Catherine Morland, so he'll give the token to her. There's a 3 under there, as the numbers always go down by 1. She puts it above the 3 spot on her story track. To move it down and get points, her heroine will have to move into a location with him, but that reserves the token for her, which isn't that helpful at this stage of the game, but it would have been earlier. Kate wants to keep Elizabeth Bennet from marrying Mr. Darcy if she can, so for her optional action, she wants Marianne to have an encounter with Mr. Darcy. Steve, who's playing Elizabeth Bennet, gets to draw the top 2 cards from the hero encounter deck. This works out well for Steve. He puts this card back on top of the deck and gives this one to Kate. She'll move Marianne here because she hopes to end the game single at Chawton Cottage. Kate moves Mr. Darcy's token up 1 and Marianne's up 2. It's not what she hoped for, but she'll take it. She'll discard any scene she'd like and draw back up to 3. Now George is up. George wants Catherine Morland to marry her hero, and he has the scene card to do it. Almost. Here's what he has to do. So they need to get from here to here. That's 3 spaces away. He could use this scene. This is useless, but this is the best. So it will get them here. At this point, he could just wait. There are still 2 more turns in a short game and 3 or 4 in a longer game. But he's got opponents near enough that he's worried one of his silhouettes might get moved before he can get to Gloucestershire. If he's got a useful heroine encounter, he could use it now. He does have a heroine encounter card, but it won't help. Still, he's not stuck. He can use a story token to go farther than the barouche allows. He'll use Mr. Willoughby's since he thinks Anne Elliot is trying to marry him anyway. He moves Willoughby back 1. Now they can go 1 more space and get married. So he'll double Tilney's points and take the happy couple off the board. The other players have to take Tilney's story token off their tracks since he's now permanently in Catherine's story. George will wait for everyone else to finish and then count up his points. He can do them in his head now if he wants, but some story tokens may leave his track as the other heroines get married. The game ends when all the heroines are off the board or the final turn has been played. The player with the most points wins. For the full rules and more, click the link that should be showing up right about now. Thanks for watching. Bye!